Hello, thank you so much for joining me. We're here to do a little yoga. This session might be a little bit more vigorous, a little bit more intense. Make sure you modify to fit your fitness level, your energy level. Even though I'm saying it's more intense and more vigorous, of course I'll show you ways on how to modify. And of course, to modify to go to regress down a level, and then you always have the option to progress up a level. So make sure you got the yoga mat, the blocks, the blanket, whatever you need to support you, and find yourself settling in on your breath. Take your time to unhook from all that's going on in the world, in your world, as much as you can. And you are focusing on your breath and your body during this time. You're practicing becoming aware and dwelling in the present moment, not trying to rush into the future or escape to the past. You're practicing right away kindness, compassion, and love with yourself. You're cultivating the benevolent witness and letting that breath help to keep you anchored in the present moment. Help that breath keep you anchored in your body, and help you keep your mind focused on that instead of thinking thoughts. This is all about finding that space between your thoughts. That is where the freedom lies. That is where your peace is. And if you practice doing that, it makes all the difference on how you deal in the rest of your life. So let that breath be as full and deep as feels good. You're inhaling and filling up the lungs. You're exhaling and you're releasing. Send that breath on the inhale all the way down to the bottom of your lungs, and then feel your lungs fill up, bottom, middle, top. And then when you exhale, you're releasing top, middle, lower. That is the 3-part yoga breath. It's another layer to add to keep you anchored, to keep you attached to your breath and your body. You can also add that constriction to the back of your throat, the same constriction you add when you fog up a mirror or a window with your out breath. You do that same constriction, breathing through your nose. Not judging if it's louder on some parts than others, but using it to help you go deeper, stay longer, really awaken to exactly what it is that moves you and you need. And there's no question, you don't feel guilty, no shame. You recognize that your place in humanity, and that you are part of humanity. Really feel yourself root down into the space below you. Activate that lower girdle by pulling that tail down, lifting those hip flexors. You can also flex the feet, press the knees away, make sure that your feet and toes aren't getting too tingly. The further away your feet and legs are from your body, the wider your base is. And feel that support, that anchoring in, that rooting in that you do from within. And then on your exhale, rise from that place you've rooted into. Lift yourself by activating that upper girdle. Heart lifts, collarbone lifts, but your shoulder blades gently tuck down and together. So you start to feel that front body lift, that back body press down, and you are breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Dwell in that sensation of both rooting in and rising up. Feel how it all comes from within. Keep practicing attaching to that feeling, that sensation, staying in that awareness. Knowing that awareness and that attachment will never let you down. Your hands can make their way to your heart. You can take a moment to set any personal intention you might be working on, or you can expand on this idea of rooting and rising from within. And then inhaling, reaching up above, keep those girdles engaged, palms come together, exhale, pull down into heart center. Couple more times, reaching and lifting and then pulling down into heart center. And then if you're sitting up on something, maybe bring it down so you feel supported. And then keep those legs really bent, have them be out in front of you. Drop those knees side to side. Waking up from that seated position, you can also roll your ankles, and especially if you feel tingly, which you never really want to get tingly, so you should start moving your legs prior to them falling asleep, because unless you like that, which I don't know why you would, because I think it's super uncomfortable, but that you might like it, then, you know, let your feet fall asleep, I guess. But that's lack of circulation, which I think is dangerous. All right, you're going to let yourself stop that movement, and then find yourself seated with the soles of your feet together and your legs out with the knees bent. And you're activating your legs by tucking that lower girdle, lifting the upper girdle, your heart, and you're pressing through your feet. So if you activate that lower girdle and then press through your feet, you've got your whole leg active. And you're in charge of how close those legs are to you. And we're going to start to rock side to side. Try to keep those legs pretty active and wide. And if you would prefer your knees, or maybe you don't even want to have your hands on your legs, but it does help to keep you a little bit more lifted. Inhaling and exhaling, let yourself rock back and forth, giving yourself that nice massage. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. And then you can let that movement go, and you can let yourself just breathe full and deep. And then let yourself reach forward into that forward fold from that butterfly position. Use those blocks. You're hinging over those legs. So you worked up a little bit of energy and oxygenated blood with that little movement and the massage. And now you're letting your body open just a little bit more. Inhale and exhale. You're only coming as far forward as feels good. Keep trying to press your whole self back into the space behind you and below you. Keep those legs active. And then let yourself come up and bring those legs together once again. Keeping the knees bent, let your legs fall side to side. So you let that like reset happen. So it's like a counter to how you just were. And then bring yourself around onto those hands and knees. Find yourself in your child's pose. Now you will see me reaching forward onto these blocks. It adds an extra layer. It is can be more intense, so you are always protecting yourself. And if you try it and you're like, I don't like it, then you don't have to do it. Of course, but everyone is reaching forward with your whole self and also pressing back. And this is a resting posture for sure, but you still are holding yourself in your body so you feel protected. Letting those girdles be engaged so you are supported as you then stretch from your center. Inhaling and exhaling. Your upper body is also hinging over your lower body here. And this is varying degrees of comfortable depending on the status of the last time you ate and just how, if you played softball in college, right, high school and college, it all just depends on how your body is, and you are showing up for yourself as the benevolent witness. You're not attaching to the bad, and you are not moving towards the good. That is harder than it sounds to do, but it is so worth it. All right, up into your table after a few breaths in your child, pressing down evenly into all your limbs so your knees end up underneath your hips. So walk those legs in if you had your legs wide apart in child. Hands come right underneath those shoulders and you are holding yourself in your trunk. Try not to hyperextend those elbows and then begin the tiny pelvic tilt here. This is the little low back move where you are engaging muscle and framework and you are swaying that low back and then you're pulling down through that tail a few times to find that place of support. And it is tail down, hip flexors lifted, and then making sure you don't hyperextend. You're pulling those blades together and then pulling them apart. And you're keeping that heart lifted as you keep that tail pulled into that place of support. And then you're pausing, pressing through those shoulder blades, and then the cat and cow is in the middle back. So that middle back starts to get a little bit more openness in it. And you pay attention and you keep your awareness there in your middle back, which does hardly ever gets any love. Your low back, your lower pelvis, and your upper back, lower pelvis, lower girdle, upper girdle, right? You have a hyper flexible low back, hyper flexible neck. That middle back is not flexible or as flexible. Breathing full and deep. So keeping that low back in that place of support, keeping that upper back in that place of support, and then putting that move in the middle back helps to get it open. Let yourself release down into a child, taking a complete break off your arms. Inhale and exhale. Even if you're holding yourself in your trunk, you still might feel it. So you are in your joints, like in your wrist joints or down by your palms, and you are taking care of yourself by gently winding your wrists down. My wrists are cracking. I love cracking. I know some people don't like it, but I love it. People think it means they get old, which it means you're moving actually. So it's actually a good thing, as long as it doesn't hurt. All right, back up into that table. Make sure that you are in that supported table so your hands underneath those shoulders, you're engaging those girdles, not hyperextending those elbows. Stay lifted and press evenly into both limbs and send that left leg back, making sure you feel steady first on 3 limbs, pressing through that left heel, and then reach that opposite limb. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. And then bring your right hand down. I'm actually going to use blocks. It just helps to lift up. And then bring that left knee towards your left arm. Press evenly into both arms, not dipping down. And let some circles happen or some gentle pulses. You can feel this in that hip. These are called fire hydrants. They are so good for you. Press through the heel. Keep the foot and the knee in the same plane, so that means that your foot's not higher, your knee's not lower, or the opposite, the vice versa. You're keeping it in the same plane as you move it around that hip socket. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. And make sure you go in all the directions and keep lifting yourself, lifting that heart, pulling that tail down. And then eventually you're going to be done with the movement. You're going to press that left heel back, and then you're going to drop those left toes to the right. Keep your navel and your heart square to the floor, but then look over that right shoulder. So now you're getting that side flexion on your left side, and well, both sides actually. It's a little crunch on your right and a lengthening on your left. And then you're going to bring that left leg down, and you're going to rest back in your child, letting the weight come off your arms, completely resetting however feels good to you. Breathing full and deep, navel, ribs, chest. Exhaling fully, chest, ribs, navel. Stay with your breath. And then it's the other side's turn, lifting yourself into your table, making sure you've got support as you press that right leg back, and then that opposite limb coming into that spinal balance. Keep trying to square yourself to the front body to the mat, the back body to the sky, and then bring that left arm down, bend that right knee, and pull it towards that right arm. Inhaling and exhaling. You're doing the same thing, other side. Keeping yourself lifted, squaring yourself over. My lawn is getting mowed, so hopefully it's not interrupting what's going on. Inhale and exhale, breathing full and deep. And then you're going to press back and then drop to the left, and then keep everything square to the floor, and then you're just gently looking over that left shoulder. Inhale and exhale. And then you're going to bring yourself back down to rest in that child. Taking care of yourself, making sure that you're drinking water as you need it. Inhale and exhale. Stay with your breath. Filling up. Oh, it's not my lawn, it's across the street. All right. Not that you care. All right. When you're ready, the next pose is downward dog. Keep holding yourself in your trunk as you curl those toes and lift into your downward dog. Keep those knees really, really bent, and try to find that nice long torso, that nice long trunk. You are finding the balls of your feet and the balls of your hands, and this on the blocks can add an extra dimension. So if it does not feel good to you, don't feel like you have to put, just because you see me putting my hands on blocks a lot. And some of these poses, especially in these ones that lift you, doesn't mean you have to, but I definitely recommend that you think about using them for support, especially after you are in this downward dog for a second, and then you walk up to that forward fold, or you drop to hands and knees and step up to that forward fold. So here you are hinging over those legs. Keep those knees bent and let yourself move as much or as little as feels good. Still practice not gripping with those toes. You're really trying to find that stability underneath those balls. And then after a few breaths, you're going to be done with whatever movement Hands come to the floor or the blocks, and then inhale halfway, flat back. You can bring your hands to right above your knees or reach back. Take an exhale and reach for the floor. So lift that navel and let yourself reach for the floor, the blocks. Keep those knees bent. Make sure you feel supported, and then inhale, weight goes into that back body. You lift up halfway, flat back. Really press through those back pockets. Really lift that front body, that heart. Exhale comes down into that forward fold. You're going to let yourself move however feels good, and then you are going to lift up into that reverse swan dive, and it's a big stretch. And if you feel dizzy, come up in stages, and don't let yourself be dizzy. But of course, if you like that head rush, which sometimes it feels good, reaching up above your head, keeping that back body active, that front body active, so you are supported, and then finding yourself in your mountain, hands at your heart, belly, one of each. You are pressing down into those balls and heels, finding yourself right between the balls and the heels, playing around, going around the rim of your foot. Whew. If you fall, you're not hurting yourself. I go around all the directions. Lift all 10 toes, spread them as wide as feels good, and every time you do it, it gets a little bit further, a little bit more. You're lifting them from the floor, so you're really engaging those balls, and then you're bringing those digits forward for that gentle grip on the mat. Keep dropping your tail. Keep lifting that front body. Kneecaps and hip flexors come up. Tail comes down. You are in that solid mountain, so navel dimples down, solid base, and then at the same time, navels dimples up. You are floating above that lower body, lifting that heart, pulling, gently tucking those blades, feeling that gentle pressure on the tops of your shoulders, pressing the crown of your head up to the sky, and your tail down to the ground, and you are breathing full and deep. Stay with your breath. You're in mountain pose. Keep practicing this pose whenever you can. Hopefully you can wear shoes where you can still press down into your balls. That's helpful. All right, make sure you're towards the front of your space. Keep playing around with that balance as you're finding yours, almost like you're falling forward or you're going to fall back. I mean, it's right in between those two sensations is where you exist in the middle, and it is amazing. All right, reach. And so it helps, we fall forward so much, it helps to put your weight more into the back to help counterbalance. All right, you're lifting into as much back bend as feels good, and then you're letting yourself swan dive. Keep that lower body nice and solid as you come forward into your forward fold. Lift up, halfway, flat back. Bring yourself back into your plank, knee down plank. Make sure you protect your shoulders by keeping those shoulders out of your ears, releasing down to the belly. Keep that lower body active and heavy as you gently press into your hands. Maybe start with just baby cobras up and down a few times. Inhaling and exhaling. We're still warming up. Leaving that lower body, that back body really heavy. Make sure those legs are active. Pressing up into your cobra or your up dog. Protecting your low back and pulling yourself up into your downward dog. Inhale and exhale. Take your time. Keep trying to find that length in both your breath and your body, and then make your way to the front of your space, coming into that forward fold. You're there. You're solid. You feel supported. You put the weight in your back body and you lift up halfway, flat back. You reach for your toes and you reach up above your head only if it feels good. If you feel like you're still too dizzy, then don't do it. Come back forward into that forward fold, up halfway into that flat back. To step back into your plank, knee down plank. Make sure that those girdles stay engaged. You use knees or not. Pressing yourself through to come up to your cobra or your up dog. And then lift yourself into your downward dog, pressing back through that back and lower body as you reach up with that front and upper body, no matter what position you are in, and then make your way to the front of your space, forward fold, halfway, flat back, back down to the toes, up above your head, and then back down into the forward fold to lift up, halfway, flat back, to step back into the plank, knee down plank, to move through the flow. Inhaling and exhaling, taking a couple breaths in that downward dog. Remember, you can always rest in your child. We're going to come back up and we're going to move through it 3 more times. I'm not going to call it out though, but I am going to do it. And you can just watch. Or you might even want to add some of your own flair, because my sun salutations are pretty basic, but they hit all the things. Please protect. Inhaling and exhaling. Here I am stepping back for the second time, coming up into that second downward dog, inhaling and exhaling, and then making my way to the front of my space for a third time to move through it. Reaching, not blowing through any of the moves. They're all equally important. But after this last pull into cobra and then downward dog, and you of course can do more, but if you're ready to rest, hang in that downward dog for 2 to 3 breaths, and then make your way down to rest in your child, making sure that you are taking care of yourself. Inhaling and exhaling. Staying with your breath, how you feel. Filling up navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. Staying connected to that 3-part yoga breath. Finding that space between your thoughts, giving yourself a break from all the thinking so you can have reset time, so you can reinforce exactly what you need and let go of what you don't. Inhaling and exhaling. You are in a safe place where you are figuring out what works for you, knowing that the yoga teacher is merely offering suggestions. And if something that is suggested does not feel good with you, don't stress or feel bad, just modify. And hopefully you meet yoga teachers that show you how to modify, that show you the different things that you can do. All right, let yourself lift into your downward dog or your table, because you can also come into 3-legged table. We're going to lift that right leg. Make sure you don't kick it into the wall. I bring that left leg a little bit forward, so I am on that nice solid base. Ball and heel active, not the toes. The toes are just reaching forward, lifting that right knee as far away. Keeping the heart square to the floor, but then rotating that navel up to the right side. Inhale and exhale. And remember, if this does not feel good to you, don't do it. We're going to bring that right foot up between the hands, coming into that runner's lunge. So press back through that left heel. Keep that right foot underneath your face, a bend in that right knee. So that right knee, you want to feel the whole foot, the ball and the heel, always. Your heels are hardly ever lifted. You're always pressing evenly through both. Only time your heels are lifted is when you intentionally do it, like with that back heel. And coming up, you're right in the middle. So find yourself pressing evenly through that right and that left leg, starting at your lower girdle. And then you are reaching evenly through your right and your left arm, starting at that upper girdle, whether you are reaching down, reaching up. Both are totally acceptable. There's also hands at hips. You're still got that shoulder girdle active, so you can lift that heart, pull those blades in. Inhaling and exhaling. You should feel this even between both legs. Find your crack. Make sure it is square to the back of your place, wherever you're at, and then make sure that your headlights, your hip flexors are square to the front of your space. Stay with that sensation, reaching your hands gently behind you. You don't have to interlace your fingers, and in fact, if you hyperextend your elbows or hurt your digits, don't. Just reach for your back pockets, and then reach your body over that right leg so you are hinging. Inhaling and exhaling, and then let those arms come down on either side of that right leg. And now bring yourself back into that three-legged dog if that feels good, or just go right to your downward dog and rest here. If you're like, yes, I want to do the flow, then do the flow because you like it, not because I say you have to. And then marinate in that downward dog, noticing how you feel, how one side might feel more open than the other side. Step that right foot up and a little bit towards the center of my space behind me. And then I lift that left leg up, coming into that three-legged dog, pressing evenly between those right and left arms and that right leg as I've got that left leg lifted up. And then pulling that left leg up underneath my body to right in front of my face down on the floor. And of course you can come down to hands and knees in order to find your left foot up in front. And remember, you are on the balls and heels, that back right ball. The toes are getting a nice big stretch back there, but you are really trying to find the balls, not the toes. And then you are right in the middle because you're pressing evenly from that lower girdle with the left leg forward. You really have to bring that left hip flexor, that left glute back, and you have to bring the right one forward. At least I do, in order to feel that squareness. And then you're reaching evenly, whether it's up or down, with your crescent lunge arms. Inhale and exhale. And then you're playing around with that little shoulder opener, trying to keep yourself lifted as you hinge over that front leg. Still feel even between the right and the left leg. Take a couple more breaths and then bring yourself forward. Here's where the sweet, sweet relief comes. Stepping back into your three-legged dog, moving through that flow or just being in the dog. Take a couple breaths and then once again make your way down to rest completely in child, breathing full and deep. Make sure you're drinking water, you're staying hydrated. We'll do a little bit of balance practice with this next little part. So definitely blocks, or if you like to use a chair or a piece of furniture or the wall, just make sure that you are near enough to reach for that support. You're never putting all your weight on your support. You're trying to still keep the weight in your body, and you're using that support to root in and then lift and rise from that place. And so try to find, even if you're using support, that you're not putting all the weight on the support. So back into the downward dog or the three-legged table. You come into that three-legged downward dog to bring that right foot up between your hands. This time we're going to smear that left foot down. You're hinging over that right leg, and then you lift up to come over your body. You're pulling up both kneecaps evenly. You are pressing evenly through your right and your left leg. You are finding the equal balance between the right ball and the left ball. And then you are lifting that heart and then spreading those arms into that beautiful warrior two. Inhale and exhale. Come into that hinge over that right leg. If you want to put your hand down on a block in order to then put a little bit, then you might not even you might be able to reach down all the way and still stay long. But if you find yourself all hunched over, bringing your hand down, then bring yourself to a block so you can feel that length. Inhale and exhale. Keep dropping those glutes down. Keep lifting those hip flexors. Lift into that warrior two. And we're going to lift everything, lengthening that front leg, bringing those arms above our heads, and then keeping the legs the way they are. You're going to hinge. Keep pulling those kneecaps up into your thighs, and now you're hinging into that triangle. Same thing here. If you find that upper left side rolling down towards the floor with your right hand on the floor, then lift yourself up so you can get that length. You are activating those girdles, that lower girdle, back body down, front body up. So think navel, heart up, and think blades, dimples down. And then you're going to play around with coming into balancing half moon. So I even step that back foot up a little bit, and then I get the blocks a little bit in front of my right leg, and then lift into playing around with the balancing half moon. You don't take yourself seriously. You try not to hurt yourself. Use whatever support is going to feel good. Don't worry, I'm not going to butt my head. I see it. Inhale and exhale, and then we're coming into balancing standing split. Bring that left leg up as high as feels good. Press into the balls of that right leg, and then let those left toes gently come down back in that runner's lunge to step back, to move through a flow, or come right up to a downward dog, or drop to the knees and rest in a child, or some combination of all of that. And then I'm going to turn around so I can stay facing you. You're going to bring yourself into that downward dog or that three-legged table. And the downward dog then becomes a three-legged dog with the left leg up. Inhale and exhale. You're bringing that left leg forward. Keep that trunk long. Bring that back leg to a place of support. Keep lifting your kneecaps. You're hinging over that left leg, and then you're going to lift yourself up to be in that warrior two. And you might still need to adjust. Keep engaging from glute and hip flexor down. The right heel is a little bit further away, and you're still trying to be even between the left and the right ball. And then you are lifting from your center, and then you are hinging over that left leg. Stay long in the trunk. Inhaling and exhaling. Keep trying to bring those blades gently together and down. You're not squeezing the blades ever like with that grape or that egg you hear, but they're definitely always engaged. And then you're lifting. Here's where we lengthen everything. And then we move into the triangle. Take your time, breathing full and deep. And then you're not taking yourself too seriously in the balance. Remember, you can do whatever feels good in order to find that balance that works for you. Inhaling and exhaling, breathing full and deep. Press evenly through both those heels. Keep pulling that kneecap up into that, both kneecaps up, and especially that one where you're standing on, you're not hyperextending. And then you are playing around with coming into the standing split. Even if you don't think that leg, that my right leg or your right leg isn't going up very high, you are pressing them away, keeping that support between the balls and the heels, and then gently coming down to that runner's lunge to press back into your plank, knee down plank, up to your downward dog, or release down to the flow, and then make your way down to your knees and rest completely. Inhaling and exhaling. Stay with your breath. Make sure that you are drinking water. And after you feel complete with the rest posture, we're going to come into squat practice. You want to feel your whole foot on the floor. So if you can't get very low without your whole foot on the floor, then lift yourself to where you can get your whole foot on the floor, balls and heels, and press back. Now, if you can come low and keep your whole foot, then still you have to stay active and lift that heart. You're still trying to always put that weight in the back body and lift that front body. Inhaling and exhaling. If this hurts your knees, come to a place where it doesn't hurt your knees as much and activate your whole body as you press back. It takes energy and it takes awareness, and you are practicing in that squat posture, whatever it is you've chosen. A couple more breaths, and it can be a combination just like you see me doing, so I can show you the different ways you can be. And then you're going to release, lifting up into your downward dog, or going right to the floor if you want to rest in child. We're going to come into pigeon posture. I'm just going to show you regular pigeon. If you need to modify this on your seat or laying down, that seated is the double pigeon, laying down is that pigeon on your back, or sometimes it's called like figure 4. And I can show you that, of course. After I show lengthening down, keep your crack square to the sky. Inhale and exhale. I've got that right leg forward. If you do this seated, you bring that right leg on top of that left leg. You're always active, pressing that right knee away, so you are pressing that right glute away, or you're on your back. Being very careful. Bringing that right ankle to that left knee, only lifting up that left foot if you can keep your glutes really heavy. Inhaling and exhaling, breathing full and deep. Stay with your breath. Coming forward on your elbows, using whatever support you would like. Use that deep, full exchange of air. Add the next part where it's 3 parts: navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. And then add the constriction if you are having a hard time staying aware of your present moment in whatever state you are in right now with this leg up underneath your body. And then seated or on your back, you're going to take some time to move through a reset pose, and either on your buns or on your back. If you're in downward, or if you're in that regular pigeon, you're pulling up to that downward dog or that table. Inhale and exhale, and then we all move to the other side. Take your time getting settled. Really make sure that you are supporting yourself. Try to really engage that lower girdle, and you're trying to pull your inner thighs together even though they're nowhere near each other, because that is really how you're staying upright. And then keeping those inner thighs engaged, let yourself reach forward into that that relaxing pigeon, or resting pigeon, maybe it's sometimes called. Your breath is still full and deep. Navel, ribs, chest. Exhale fully, chest, ribs, navel. Breaths are full and deep. You've added all the layers that you need to stay active to stay active and aware in the space that you're at. You're lifting yourself up, and then you are moving through whatever reset feels good, whether you're curling that back toe and coming back into that downward dog, or you're just coming right onto your back from seated, or if you're on your back, you're doing a reset on your back. Inhale and exhale. Eventually, if you are in that downward dog, you'll release down to the knees and let yourself completely rest in that child's pose. Inhaling and exhaling. Take time to make your way towards your back when you're ready. Letting yourself reset on your back for a few breaths, taking a moment to stay connected to yourself. Feel your whole back body. Keep trying to pull that back body down. Keep trying to lift that front body up. Engage those girdles. The lower girdle, especially that clock. Your navel is 12, your pubic bone is 6. And the hip flexors are 9 and 3. You're keeping that in that place of evenness, and that is supporting your low back. You're letting your collarbone come apart as your arms are reaching out to the side or down by your sides, trying to feel both of your arms on the floor, your shoulder sockets and your hip sockets. Letting yourself move in windshield wipers, or if it feels all right on your low back, you're rocking and circling. Inhale and exhale. Breathing full and deep. Eventually you're going to let the left foot be down on the floor, and then press through that right heel, bringing that foot up to the sky. Let some circles happen with that right ankle. Maybe move those toes around. You can go in all the directions. Keep the kneecap pulled up into your thigh. Inhale and exhale. Keep pressing both your hip sockets down. Stay with that awareness of pressing both your hip sockets down. Keep that chin tucked as you reach towards that right leg, coming for that gentle, gentle grip behind that right knee or that right thigh. In fact, it shouldn't be hardly any grip at all, because it's so many delicate things back there that you can hurt. You can also lift and reach for the toes, but you're not straining that upper body. So if your shoulders come out of the sockets, or if your head feels too heavy to keep lifting and reaching, then keep your head down and just reach, pressing through that heel. Keep pressing that glute down so you feel that length in your trunk. And then bring that right leg down. Inhale and exhale. Make sure you feel nice and supported. Keep those glutes down. Press through that left heel, bringing that left leg up, keeping that kneecap pulled up, and then starting to make some circles. Move those toes around. Inhale and exhale. Keep the length in the back of that leg. Pressing through that heel, reaching for that ankle, the back of the knee, not pulling very hard. You can also reach for the toes. Remember, you're not straining, inhaling and exhaling. Stay with your breath. And then once again, bringing yourself down to reset with the windshield wiper or the rock, the circle. Inhale and exhale. Bring those arms out to the side. Drop that right knee on top of that left knee. So that right leg is kind of hanging out there in that jaunty position. The left foot is on the floor. You're going to drop the knees to the left. So try to keep the right shoulder connected. If this is hurting, then don't bring your legs so far over. Inhale and exhale, lift. Keep your legs the way they are. Keep pulling those knees together. Now drop to the right and gently feel that right leg pull that left leg so you get that IT band stretch. Still both shoulder blades on the floor, heart to the sky. Nose is pointing wherever feels comfortable. Bring yourself back to neutral. Right leg down, left leg on top. Make sure that you are connected and you are supporting yourself. Now that left leg is out in kind of floating, being jaunty. We're going to drop over to the right. And I kind of jiggle onto that hip to drop those knees over to the right. Keep that left side connected so the hips are staying somewhat square. So the twist is more in the middle back. And then bring yourself up to neutral to then come into that IT band stretch. These are big stretches. You're only doing what feels good to you. Inhale and exhale. Bring yourself up and reset with rock or rolling around or doing whatever feels good to you in order to feel complete with your practice. And now if you've got a few moments to lay in relaxation or sit in meditation, I encourage you to take 5, 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes if you've got it, and really try to keep putting that space between your thoughts. Focus on your breath. Stay right where you're at. Practice that awareness training. The more you practice it, the more you show up for yourself, the easier it is to get. And it is, even though it's not easy to do, right? It takes so much energy, even though you're only doing it for this finite time. But it's so worth it. Like, even though it's hard, it is so worth it. And I encourage you to do that. All right. Namaste. Take care. See you soon. Bye.